Alright, tier list time. This one's focused on boss damage, team flexibility, investment priority, and how useful each Nikkei is across multiple team comps. I'll cover the best options for veterans, but I'll also include some lower investment alternatives for newer or returning players who still want to contribute. Just remember, fallback options do not mean investment recommendations. Save your real resources for the S tier units. Let's get into the list. I'm starting with burst ones because the best burst one units are the most valuable Nikkes in Union Raid. They're not locked to one element, and the strongest ones can fit in any team just about. At the top, the strongest burst one options are Honest, Moran, and Siren. These are the units you're going to see again and again across every single serious Union Raid team, any boss element. If you're missing those top options, the next group I'd look at would be Leader, Treasure, Miranda, Rouge, and then lower down still, Volume, D Killer Wife, and Dorothy. They may not all be the best in slot anymore, but they can still help you build a functional team with some burst CDR and attack boosts. For newer or returning players, there are also serviceable fallback B1s like Jackal, Label, Soline, Summer Mary, Noise. Emma's going to require you to have Unifa and or Vesti, but they can help you survive a little bit longer. They can help you contribute some damage and, just have fun with it if you're running any of these types of Nikkes. Just remember, I don't recommend investing in any of them. Use them to help you contribute. It can still help you do a good job. I've also included Tove for players who really want to run a shotgun team. If you've got a built Tove, I don't know why you do it, but I'm throwing it here because people like Tove. Burst 2 should come as no surprise with Crown leading the pack, and then Nayuta. Just like best B1s, we can use them on any element. Made Mast is also very valuable, either alongside Crown or Nayuta, or with Made Anchor if you're missing one of the top options. Then it's Bunny Aid, who is another really strong flexible pick because you can use her on electric or iron. She does fit in other elements. And then you have the specialized but extremely important option like Brid. She's a standout B2 for Fire Week bosses. And then, of course, there is Velvet and Summer Helm, also very high value for wind and iron, but you're not bursting with those two B2s. They are there just to help your units deal more damage on those elements mainly. If you're missing those, Grave is still very strong, especially for Fire Week. And then, of course, Made Anchor, again, paired with Made Mast. I also included OG Arcana as a kind of like a question mark for Electric Week bosses, with Altizen being the Tyrant boss. There may be situations involving Cindy and Honest and Isabel where Arcana might perform better than expected with Isabel. Still, I didn't get down to it yet, but Neon is likely to be, who we're going to run here, not Isabel, especially because many of us haven't invested in Isabel, but you never know. This boss will have a lot of HP, and you may need to run 2 electric teams to get it down. And then in this anything tier, same rule applies. Use them if you need them, but don't overinvest. Units like Naga, Blanc, Marciana, Yunfa, Summer Rosana, Mari. Hey, Delta, she can really help new players fill out teams, say if you've gotten that crown or whatnot. She works as a great pair with the damage taken debuff. For Water Week bosses, the top damage options are centered around having a heavy arm Snow White, a Privity, especially with a boss with a core, Summer Dorothy, and Summer Eleg. Privity may surprise outranking Summer Dorothy, but she really does a ton of damage against Water Week bosses with a core, especially if she's well invested in. And Summer Eleg is a huge support for that team, especially because she can burst at specific timings to expel her ghosts and push extra damage. And I do think that some bosses are going to cater more towards Summer Dorothy. If you don't have all of those built, the next options you'll look at is Treasure Helm. Treasure Helm's very close to being the Water S, but she does get outranked slightly by these on bossing. Then there's Ludmilla, Bretty, and Quincy. Quincy's great against Water Week bosses with a core. Bretty is a great all-rounder if you don't have any of the above. And if you're missing even more than that, or you're a returning player, you may be better off using strong neutral pilgrim damage dealers instead of forcing a water unit. Just because the boss is Water Week doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be doing more. So Electric is going to be interesting, especially against Altizen. At the top, it's looking like Neon and Cinderella, but both are extremely strong. And depending upon investment, either one could end up ahead. I lean towards Neon because she looked really great in high damage co-op teams, but my own Cinderella does much more damage, and she is more invested. Isabel, I think, is worth considering, especially against Altizen, where she can land all of her shotgun pellets, especially without a core. And I don't think most players will be using her, but I do want to include her just because I want to see how they all rank up next to each other in terms of damage. And after that, the next electric option units are Summer Anise, Ex-Maiden, Ein, Ada, and Scarlet. If Ein is your main damage dealer, you're going to want to manually play her to get the most damage out of her. And if you're missing any of those units, then there's the Maid Privity or Jill Fallback, but again, not recommending any investment there. When DPS is going to come, no surprise with Liberalio and Scarlet Black Shadow at the top. Even if your Scarlet does more damage, Liberalio needs more investment because Scarlet needs Liberalio's buffs. That's that attack needing to be higher. If Liberalio doesn't have enough attack, well, the team loses a lot of value, but still going to be your best team. If you're missing one of them, Wind Asuka is still very strong if you built her previously. Tentative Ray, she is tied to Wind Asuka, so if you have those two but you don't have Liberalio and SPS, you could pair them up. Otherwise, Asuka and SPS make a lot of sense together. Mana is also a strong option with SPS because she increases her charge speed. And after that, units like Summer Sakura or Noir can be used if you're missing stronger options. But again, don't invest in them for this Union raid. Fire team is built around Rappi, Red Hood, Diesel, and Mihara. Rappi needs no real explanation. She's the strongest raid unit in the game. Diesel can also do a lot of damage, sometimes even out damaging Mihara, but the key is that you burst with Diesel and you're not bursting with Mihara. If you're missing one of them, Alice is still a really strong substitute, especially for veteran players who already have her built, and Ray is an amazing fire buffer. She makes the whole fire team stronger. Modernia can also sit in that non-burst slot if you're missing Mihara. Other options include Fire Asuka, Drake, New Vesti, and further down 2B and A2. Some returning players may have already invested in the near units. If that's the case, you can use them, but I wouldn't recommend newly investing in any of those units otherwise. For Iron, Rappi Red Hood is again one of the strongest options. Raven is ranked extremely high because she has more general boss usage. Red Hood is still amazing, but she is at her best when Pierce is valuable. Bosses like Material Age, Ultra, or Stormbringer, where you can hit parts, cores, or multiple hitboxes. Same with OG Snow White, can also be excellent if you already have her built with the right setup, especially on those same bosses. A well-built Snow White can let you move Rappi Red Hood over to Fire, which gives your account more flexibility across multiple teams. And Maxwell, she's mainly valuable as a Snow White buffer, while Eve can be strong on bosses with a core if she's heavily invested in. And after that, you have options like Bunny Milk, Chisato, less so Laplace, and Bunny Soda. But these are fallback picks. Some of them have awkward or difficult playstyles, so I really would only use them if your roster is limited or you already have them built to their waifu tier, You're definitely going to want to pull on at least one Raven and Eve on this upcoming banner. So one important thing to remember, just because a boss is weak to an element does not mean your whole team needs to be that element. If you're missing key units, sometimes a strong neutral Nikkei or a strong off element buffer will perform better than a weaker on element option. For example, we've already seen cases where Liberalio can support Neon even though she is not the obvious same element choice, and we've seen situations with Heavy Arm Snow White. She can go on any boss, it doesn't matter, so definitely keep these options open. This tier list is kind of like a guide. If your roster is missing pieces, don't be afraid to get creative, and fill in some blanks where you think that they might be valuable. And that's my Union Raid boss tier list. For veterans, the top tier units are the ones I'd focus on for maximum damage. For newer returning players, the lower tier options are there to help you participate, contribute, and build around the roster that you actually have. If this helped you decide who to build for Union Raid, please leave a like. It'd help get the guide in front of more Nikkei players, and let me know which ranking you disagree with the most. I know this is a little bit of a biased list when you look at the anything tier, but one thing's for sure, you can't argue about the S tier Nikkeis. These are the highest damage dealers per element or off element in the game. Once mocks are available, I'll be testing the bosses and showing all 5 elemental teams, including the highest damage setups I can find. So this was the tier list. Next is the practical boss mocking and team building guide. I'm really curious to see how Altaizen's going to go, but I really think it's going to be that Neon and Cindy team for the most of us. So until that one,